All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Azima and Saf.
Hey.
Thank you for joining me on a Saturday. Our first casual conversation of the new year, 2021. Finally, it's
Yay.
here. Didn't know what happened to 2020 there. How was your celebration? How was your year end holiday? Or how did you celebrate New Year's? I would like to know as well.
I
South.
didn't celebrate. I, I don't know. It's not accustomed to me to celebrate. I
Okay.
was in Malacca.
You were in Malacca.
Yeah, it was a impromptu travel to kind of swap um like fetch my dad in Malacca.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in
I see. I
Malacca.
see. Azima?
Yeah, it's good to be back with family. So we have family gathering, family dinner. So it's a very
Mm.
content one.
Oh, did you cook?
Yes, I have to take turns, potluck.
Nice. Nice,
Mm-hmm.
nice, nice. Mine,
What did
I
you
also,
do, Joanne?
sorry,
What did you do, Joanne?
I was back in my not second hometown with my mom and my aunt as well, and then we wanted to put out fireworks last night, 2 nights ago, but it was drizzling. It was drizzling outside. So then what we did was I had this sound effect apps. So
Okay.
I just put yeah, and then this is the one that I like put up pretend fireworks sound. Can you hear?
Oh yeah. Happy New
So that was my
Year.
pretend that was our pretend fireworks sound. And then the best part is because you can play a few sounds together. So we did this.
Yeah. So
Oh
happening.
god. Why is it like clubbing and the New Year?
Tu lah,
They
that's
have all
why.
the
Like
lights.
just huh?
They have all the different color lights
Oh,
on.
the light
I wish.
effects.
Tu lah, I wish I had no. So there was just sound effects. Hey, but actually sound makes the atmosphere as well, kan? That was quite
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I think
So
so.
we went to we just like shot sendiri kat rumah.
Me and my sibling, we were on this joke that okay, now there's no hardly to hear, there's no longer see you next year, but there was be like, okay, be careful, you don't want to go to toilet now because you will go out next year. Oh no, we ate the last year's burgers,
Oh
something like
my
that.
god. I've
Oh,
not heard of that one. That one's yeah, true.
Yeah, and then
what?
on the 1st of January morning, then my sister said, I'm going to cook last year's rice for today's nasi goreng. I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. You can use the last year, next year thing like just between the 2 days, kan?
Exactly.
All right. Anyhow, that sounds fun. Uh, but it's like it's a weird celebration lah this year, kan? I feel like the only one I heard from my friend yang paling happening is she somehow managed to travel to Dubai. So I think Dubai opened their travel restrictions, so people can come in as long as you are like I don't know I don't know how they do it lah, whether she's tested or whatnot. So they can travel, but yeah lah, SOP everywhere. So she was in Dubai watching fireworks, and they celebrated it quite like with a big bang also lah. So that was the most happening one. Everyone else is like quiet, it's like at home, tak ada
Mm.
benda macam tu.
Mm-mm. I see everyone
home
facing the
celebration.
laptop for the New Year's. Like there's online shows or something.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, I wasn't watching any
Online
though.
shows.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, so today I think this is just something that I don't know. I was randomly thinking about this as well. So non-academic education. So that will be our topic today. So I guess this was a question that I posed to you guys as well, and I was even talking to Craig about this. Based on your experience, what are some skills you wish you were taught in school? We'll start with that one first, and then we'll lead into what we think is actually non-academic education. So based on your experiences, what are some of the skills you wish you were taught in school? Things that you were learning after school, things that you're learning now, or like still struggling to learn. Yes, go ahead, Azima.
Well, I think during my schooling day, I think it's a little bit too academic that everyone is focusing on IQ. Is a very
Mm,
little chance that people are talking about EQ. So I
mm,
realized that I pick up about EQ actually during university days and actually a lot during working days. So during school, I think maybe it's somehow embedded in the curriculum, but it wasn't obvious. But it's everything about exams, IQ, you score, you got good grades. But
mm.
almost no one talked to me about the importance of EQ. And then if we
Mm,
remember during our schooling day, we have bilik counseling, cikgu
mm,
counseling. But there's a perspective that if you have problem, then you will be sent to guru
Yeah.
counseling. Ah, it's not a good they're not giving you a good perception about counseling in the first place. It's like, oh, you're going to a counselor, a teacher counselor, then you have problem. So I think I actually was hoping maybe I will be exposed to how to recognize emotion, empathy, how to do emotion map. That will actually help us better
mm.
in I think complementing EQ and IQ.
EQ,
Emotional
I've never thought
mapping,
of it
yeah.
that way. Yeah. I've never thought of EQ actually. Yeah, but good point. Okay, stuff.
Interesting. I think like I was discussing this a few minutes before. And I think it's like relationship building. I think up till
Mm,
now I'm like 35 and I'm still learning how to interact with people, how to communicate effectively, or even just how to build those relationships and have a sense of what's a positive relationship, what's a damaging relationship. And I feel like
mm,
yes, teachers do provide different opportunities for us to start talking to other people, but they don't
mm.
tell you what to do. The intricacy of, relationship, like if you
Yeah.
have done something wrong to a person and you are being treated with passive aggressiveness, you didn't know when you were
Mm,
at school. You would
yeah.
go back and kind of reflect on what did you do wrong, you were kind of reflecting on you yourself as the problem rather than thinking about other things or other perspective. So I think relationship building lah, because it's quite
Mm,
important and
okay.
it's quite key as we grow up. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. So you guys are talking about quite similar stuff because like Azima was talking about EQ, right? Like sensing emotions and whatnot, which is similar to what you were talking about in terms of relationship as well. Uh,
Mm-mm.
good points you guys brought up. So that's why I guess I have you guys as well because for me, it was only a concern recently. Mine is financial literacy
Ah,
because
okay, yeah.
because I started. Yeah, so suddenly I was thinking to a point where okay, so um if if this is the plan for us, like this is the dream kind of life we want when we retire, for example,
Mm-hmm.
when I stay in the cabinet because I kept watching these tiny homes YouTube channels or that, right?
Yeah.
So okay, so if let's say we do want to live in a cabin home and then whatnot, so then we just out of curiosity when I search for how much it will cost. And then you have to like backwards plan from there and like imagine, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so fine. If cabin is this much, and then you need to renovate, assume it's this much, then where do you gonna put it? Then that's land as well, right? So then you start searching all these things, and then you realize, oh, actually, it's gonna cost so much. But then currently, I have no investment plan. I'm only relying on like, for example, savings or EPF kind, which
Mm-mm.
might not be enough. But though all those things were not taught to us, like okay, I don't
Yeah,
I don't know
that's
things like yeah. So maths is not this is not one of the chapters in maths, which I wish it was. Like okay, you
was
should.
it in KH though?
Is it in KH? I tak ingat. Maybe lah.
I remember
It's
the ledgers,
investment.
but I don't
Ah
remember if they
yes.
taught us savings.
Yes, correct. I remember ledgers. I remember learning about simple debit credits, understanding percentages
Mm-mm.
came in because they need, okay, so this is where your interest rate is, so then how much
Mm-mm.
would you get by the end? So they teach you this kind of stuff, which perhaps is the basic skills that is needed before you go into this more advanced subject lah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but
If
I think that's really interesting because recently when I am working on a project to have a look at the secondary school syllabus, there's a
mm,
savings and investment topic in Form
Yeah.
3 maths. I was like, oh,
Correct.
I wish I had this in my syllabus back
Mm-mm.
years then.
yeah, true. That's why when we were working as well, we had this school program called Chaching. I don't know whether you guys remember.
Yes.
Catching it.
So Chaching, yeah, so
Yeah.
No,
Chaching
I
was
don't think it
cool,
was.
and
No, sorry,
ah,
continue.
no, I said Chaching was the program. It was a bank sponsored event, was it?
Uh, yeah, it's a bank program. I think it was public
Yeah. So
bank. It is public bank.
is it? Yeah. So then
Mm-mm.
it's nice because they go to school and they're just exposed to kids to the fact that you can do savings, you can do donation, and then how things work lah, and then take care of your spending as well, which no one really like emphasize on the fact that you should observe all your spending because we have never done it until like suddenly, oh okay, wait, how come we so many months and we still can't save a lot? So where do we spend it on? Then you will want to go in. So it's only out of a specific problem that you would then, okay, let's do something about it rather than like making it a habit already. So
Mm-hmm.
again, I don't know whether this should already be part of formal education. So okay, make sure every year 1, year 2, year 3, or like every month you should take care of your spendings. But yeah, that's why we're talking about this non-academic education part. Okay, so these are what we think are the skills that we wanted to learn about. So I guess there's a lot more to this. It's not just about relationships. I'm sure it's not just about EQ as well. So now we are talking about this. Perhaps you're also thinking about a lot of other stuff. So I thought of doing a little exercise. So
Okay.
so I'll share with you guys a Padlet. I think if you can check in the chat, I shared a Padlet link.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I thought we can just spend a little bit of time, perhaps 2-3 minutes, to write down a whole list of what you think are non-academic educations or like informal, non-formal education, all the other skills, all the other knowledge that you would have wished to be part or somehow taught to you during your younger years. Younger years. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right, so we'll
Okay.
start now. Let's time ourselves at 2 minutes first. I'll cue,
All right.
and then we'll see how many we can come up with lah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, Ken. I was also thinking of how would we even include things like co-curriculum? Is co-curriculum part of non-academic education as well? Yeah, something to think about. But yeah, let's jot down what you guys have in mind. Can you get the link, Saf?
Yeah, I'm on it.
Okay.
Non-academic. That's a question on its own. Like, what is academic and why is this non-academic?
Yeah. Yep. That'll be what we get to after this. Let's see what are the themes that we see, like what are the patterns. I was thinking about foraging. Okay, 30 more seconds.
Oh no.
Do we need more time?
I'm okay.
All right, let me just add one more.
What's foraging?
Yes, I'll share with you.
It's just like raging in the forest.
Raging, raging in the forest. Yeah. No, foraging is like knowing how to collect wild herbs, how to collect mushrooms, how to collect edible fruits. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're so like I am so out of touch with plants and food resources that I can't even imagine seeing edible plants in the forest. Like I cannot fathom that thought that if I go into the forest, I would find trees that would have fruits that I could eat. I feel like the forests are just things that you cannot eat.
Oh, it's abundant with stuff that you can eat. That's
Sure,
why.
but I
But no
cannot
one taught us how.
imagine it. Like, I
Oh.
can imagine there's pokok pisang in the forest.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I guess a lot of the types of plants are more like farming. That's why they have it. So like palm trees, you can. I'm not sure whether you can actually find like wild palm trees, in the forest. Kan? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we have this few stuff. Let's start with this one first, lah. Then we can, then we can like run through it. Azima, you're still typing. Okay. Update.
Oh, I like the topic on learning about Azima. So that's like a subject on its own.
Yeah, that's under your relationship building. Good. Understanding people. All right. Okay, we have like a list of stuff here as well. Oh yes, this is like so Azima. Environmental awareness. Yes, correct. I missed that out. Environmental awareness is the point. So I wrote things like self-regulation, growth mindset, and grit. I think this was building on what Saf was talking about. Saf, I think you mentioned like mental health things before.
Yeah.
Right. So Saf, would you like to share first some of the stuff that you shared in here?
Okay. So I think one of the first things I posted was self-care. And I think self-care is more about, it could be regulation of your emotions or just understanding how to take care of yourself. I think back in school, a lot of the things that I was taught was more about giving to others, that eventually as I grew up, I forget how to give back to myself, and it felt wrong, or I feel guilty if I were to splurge on myself. So I think like self-care kind of brings it all around, like you're giving to others, but you're also thinking about yourself so that you have a more sustainable self that could, give out to others in the long run lah. And then the second one was managing home. So I feel like if I were to put there household chores, it's simplifying it too much. So I want to put there managing home, and I think it's all around. So it is the chores, but it is very unique to each household. It could be laundry, it could be how you can help out in the kitchen, but it could also be things that you could think about, like how to not hoard or how to organize. I think those are part of managing home that we keep on hearing adults tell us it's common sense that you put things a certain way in the kitchen, for example. But I've come to know that
Common
common
sense is not
sense
common.
is
Yeah.
exactly, it's subjective, and it's quite
Yeah.
unfortunate that people would rely on common sense and not explain. It's common sense,
Yeah.
but like people
Yes.
need to hear it. Yeah,
Agreed,
so I
agreed,
think
agreed on
managing
the
home.
hoarding as well.
They need a justification.
Yeah, they need to be, like you take 1 minute to just explain why the pinggan is there. Like I've always been a kid that asks adults why. Why do I do this? Why do I have to do that? Why? Because like I would need to understand the objective to then decide whether I want to do it that way or can find easier way to get things done. So I feel like everyone else should have that opportunity to ask why so that they could customize their approach lah.
Yes, actually, that's the beginning of the critical thinking. It looks like very simple, but maybe in our community, we've been taught not to question things. So, for example, when older people give us instruction, for example, oh, let's place that pinggan there on the rack, but on the top of
Yeah.
the rack, not at the bottom. Then if we ask them why, then they will be like, just put it. No
Yeah.
explanation, right? So we are forced to just accept the instruction.
Accept and follow. That's my pet peeve. I cannot just accept and follow. Like, no.
Yeah.
I degil.
It's similar to those like pantang larang from the olden days, kan?
Yeah.
So like your grandma will ask you not to do this, or like your granddad will ask you not to do that, but they don't explain to you why. And sometimes it's not even applicable anymore at this day and age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Managing homes. Yes, I agree. Agree. It comes. I feel like a lot of it comes from modeling for this kind of stuff. But yeah, like what you said, sometimes they model, but they don't tell you the reason why. So then you won't
Correct.
feel like there is a need. There is not. It's not a necessity. Maybe you just do it out of your own preference. You know. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think like modeling goes only so far because if you don't understand the objective of what's being modeled, you tend to stop emulating what you see when you don't see that person anymore. Because
Mm.
you didn't even know why you're doing it. You were just doing it
Yeah.
because I saw my mom doing it. When my mom passed,
Correct.
then you don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Then
All right.
okay, so the next one, am I going through all the things in the list?
I don't know. I don't mind if Azima would like to jump in and share hers as well.
Yeah.
If you see that there is similar stuff. So okay, I'll jump in first because when Saf was talking about managing homes, I was also talking about practical life skills. So things like cooking, things like plumbing, electrical fixing, yeah, all this like simple stuff. So even things like
Yeah.
sewing, I feel like we do have some basics in school. I agree. So things like Kemahiran Hidup, which is not a subject now actually, has taught. Yeah, they took out Kemahiran Hidup. I think I can't remember which year, but yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Azima. I'm not like 100% sure, but if I remember correctly, Kemahiran Hidup is not a thing now. But yes, they do teach you cooking, like electrical fixing, sewing, woodwork, in terms of a project-based thing lah. Not like, in general very practical stuff. It's practical to a point for that project lah. Like, oh, you can do a dish
Yeah.
right. This is how you
It's
do it,
like
you
it's
know?
not problem solving, it's doing things yourself.
Yeah. Correct. But so again, I don't know whether it's a specific skill set they were looking for, or like what Azima was saying, is actually just things like critical thinking skills, perhaps, or collaboration that were built onto different stuff that you can learn on your own after that out of school. You know, I can't teach you all the recipe under the world. So how much of that basic home skills, you know, that I can give to you in school for you to do that, or what else can I emphasize, or that actually if you want to learn more, you can go here, learn there, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
I
practical
still remember during it was 90s when I was in secondary school. So Kemahiran Hidup actually they teach you how to cook. They give you several missions like cook these dishes, cook this cake,
Yeah.
sew this kind of baju. But it's skill. It's like just giving you skill. And if I'm not mistaken, later on towards later, they actually separate it to the vocational school. So vocational school took those with all the skills. So they kind of like separate it. But before that, we have
Really?
the Kemahiran Hidup, which is, yes, I first learned to cook with my friends in the class at
Oh,
school. So we experiment. I mean, at home, a mom is the chef at the kitchen, so you are just a helper. So this is the chance that you first time have the whole kitchen for
oh.
yourself, you and your friends. So we experiment things. I mean, freely without being, hey, don't do that, don't do this.
Yeah,
Actually, we do that.
exactly.
Mm.
My mom was like, okay, you guys don't have to do things, but you have to watch me do things. I think for me, that was the regulation. But moms always have their rules in their own kitchen.
Exactly.
The worst part is when they tell you, just agak-agak lah. I'm like, okay. That's gonna which leads me to one of the things that I wrote as well, which is understanding your instincts. So
That
perhaps
is
all these
true.
agak-agak is also instincts, you know. But yeah, I need to be able to learn how to understand instincts lah. So okay, I know that this is enough, or perhaps actually it's not instincts. You actually just need to take out a spoon and taste lah, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Or pattern
so
recognition,
yeah, so that's
actually.
practical. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, things like pattern recognition. Right. Yeah, Azima, would you like to elaborate on anything else that you added in here?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the first column at the bottom, setting up priorities, simple life management. This is something that
Ooh.
I was thinking. It's actually very simple, but I was imagining during my primary school time, as simple as we have this timetable, and then you need to pick what books you need to bring to schools,
Yep.
right? So for me, I'm very fortunate because my mom kind of like supervise me. So she kind of like, okay, tomorrow, what are those subjects? Do you have everything in your bag? Because some of my friends, they didn't bring books, they didn't bring their utensil. So that is happening during we are really at about 8 years old to 10 years old. And also after that, I was thinking as a kid, no one actually giving me a guidance. For example, if I'm facing certain situation or scenario, what should I do or what should I choose? So given in the situation that I need to make a decision, whether to do A or B, there's a less, I mean, guidance on what to choose. So I
Yeah.
was thinking that how to incorporate that in our education so that
Yeah.
our younger generation they know they have this, oh, this is priority. Okay, in this situation, I shouldn't be selfish. I should consider this first. Before I make a decision, what should I consider? Something that's
Yeah.
simple, but if we actually nurture that from younger age, I believe it will create a very uh, good adults.
Yeah. It's
Definitely.
basically problem solving and decision making,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But I
Yeah.
think like what would be a good addition is as you're growing up, you have to be given the accountability. I think as when we were younger, adults had the fear or don't have enough time to allow us to make mistakes. And I think that is where we ended up not making our own decision, not being accountable for anything, not being responsible because we're just too young to be practicing those skills until lah kita dah adulthood, and then we all feel like crap when we make mistakes.
Exactly, that's very interesting, Sam, because I just read somewhere last week about parenting. I mean, very strict parents will actually uh, kind of like create a children that very prone to lie because they afraid to tell you the truth. For example, they're making mistake. You as adult, you as a parent, don't give a space for your kids to you want them to admit that they make mistake, but after that you will scold them. So that actually breaking the trust. So after that, they don't want to tell you the truth anymore,
Yeah.
because they don't trust you anymore. That's very interesting. How to encourage kids to come home and tell mom, I did it, I'm so sorry, and then
Yeah.
about giving a second chance.
Yeah. Where's the safe space to fail, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
That
Yeah. And then
should be
talking,
taught.
yeah, that's why. And talking about priorities, like if I knew how to prioritize properly, maybe I'll be a better project manager now. Because that's what I struggle with as well. You know, when you have time constraint, when you have resource constraint, and all these things piling up. So what should you focus on first? So prioritization is a very strong skill that you would need, especially when you go to work, whether or not it's in corporate or whether it's in civil services, right? But yeah,
And that will actually lead to time management as well.
yeah, correct. Yeah, time management, all that as well. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, Saf added, so resourcefulness, is this building on what we were talking about?
Um, oh, resourcefulness, I think it's more like understanding where to go if you need something. I think it sounds simple. Like for me, it sounds simple because I'm very, like Google savvy. So that's an example of, using Google as a place to find solutions. But for some people, it doesn't come as naturally to be your own resource when you're in different situations. And I feel resourcefulness would be a key thing to teach the younger generation, or like people growing up should be nurtured with resourcefulness, so that whatever comes your way, you would know that, there's always a way to manage this. Like, I may not know what the answer is, but I always, come out of it, or I can manage it because I know where to go. There are places to find help, rather than feeling stuck or scared of the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This sounds a little bit again like problem finding and problem solving that you're saying is like design thinking, you know. So what do you do next? So if this is what you're having, so what can you do next? Oh, can I ask myself? Can I ask Google? Can I ask, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it might be building into design thinking.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, just avoiding feeling stuck lah. I think that would really help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
so that's
design
why
thinking is
I added in
something.
the self-regulation growth mindset.
Yeah.
Apa
Design
Lima?
thinking for me is something really new. I never learned it even during my uni time. I didn't learn it. I found out about it just recently during my working time. So
Yeah,
yeah,
same.
that would be very interesting.
I think they termed
Yeah.
it, but the whole concept of design thinking is
Yeah.
not new. It's something that we
A
do every day, but
combination of
no one has
skills.
correct. No one has really phrased it, and then so when someone coined the term, it's like, oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it's your idea kind of thing. But actually, that concept might not be new.
Yeah.
We have just been doing it very
It's like what I
instinctively.
say, someone has to do a unique PhD, so they have to trademark what they come out with, a framework, and then they have to brand it. So you'll see this coming out, but actually it's everything that you wanted to do anyways. You just didn't brand it.
Yeah, branding,
Okay,
communication, and branding, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, self-branding.
Yeah, so
that's
I added things. God, it could be under self-care, so who knows?
Yeah. Or
I added
authentic
things
self.
like digital literacy, digital citizenship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I added digital literacy, digital citizenship as well, because this might be quite new because of all the tech that we have right now. But I think, especially here, like, it's not really emphasized a lot on how safe it is, digital footprint, that kind of stuff. It's not emphasized a lot to kids. So you want kids to use all kinds of different platforms when they're learning. You're as parents, as young as 2-3 years old, you already put a tablet in front of their face, you know. But no one's really taught them about all this safety precautions that you need to do, or even things like as easy as how do you do specific searches on Google. I myself don't even know all the
Yeah, the
keyboard
shortcuts.
shortcuts whatnot to do all this kind of stuff. So yeah, so that is something I feel like yeah, correct. So I feel like that's something that's missing a lot. So I feel like as you need to be a developer to know all these tech hacks, but actually it doesn't need to be, I feel. Yeah, so I feel that's something that is missing as well. How do you identify fake news? Yeah, that kind of stuff. So that's what I added in for digital literacy. Anyone else want to share there?
Yeah, I saw we have a lot of self. We have self-care, we have authentic self from self, and I also added about self-awareness. But what I mean about self-awareness is um, to educate an individual to actually understand themselves more. So I remember during my teenage time, I don't know whether it's a girl thing or not because I'm from girls' school. So we love to do quizzes that actually okay, if you answer this question, then there's a description about your traits, about
Oh, like
what you
personality
are.
test.
Yeah,
Personality
like
test,
things
yes.
you find in Clio.
Yeah. And now on
Yeah,
BuzzFeed,
Yep.
yeah, a lot of
all the
those things.
personality
But
tests.
then,
Are you which Disney princess
yeah.
are you?
Which Disney princess? I'm Mulan.
Yeah.
Princess Mulan. Alright. So if we actually incorporate this self-awareness, for example, this personality test, we have a lot of personality tests. We have Enneagram, we have a system character. So I think when they actually know what is their traits, what is their special character, what are those prone feature that they need to pay attention, they will actually appreciate themselves more and they can make the best of themselves and they can actually empathy in how they're treating others. Yeah, I really think this bit will actually help individual to try to give their best in whatever they do. Even
That is
Yeah.
we offer this for schooling kids, but we can do it something like simple.
yeah.
So they can understand why actually I'm reacting differently from my friends. Why my friend is like that. If we watch Disney movie, there's a high school girls that will be, oh, this is a popular girl, and this that's always kan gambar tentang this popular mean girl, but then this one really plain girl, so try to survive the thing and to get the pure love. So that kind of thing. It will help them to actually figure out why I'm different from others and
Mm,
give them more self-love.
Yeah,
mm.
I think the point I'm taking away from that is for for kids to be told what they are good at, what they've done right, because a lot of feedback is given usually negative feedback. Where is your gap, rather than you've done that right or you've done that differently, but in a way that is actually promoting a specific skill. I
Yeah.
think only when I was doing my post grad that I started finding out where my abilities were. Before this, I, I just thought I was lucky. I've never thought I was smart or resourceful or strategic. I literally just thought I was lucky because I kept being told by a lot of people around me that, oh, you were lucky you got into this. You were lucky you got into this. Even during UPSR, you were lucky. Everything was just luck for some reason. And
Mm,
I couldn't
mm.
understand what my abilities were until I was
Yeah.
like, 25? And I don't think that is right because, like Azima said, awareness on what you are able to do would really help you then hone in on those skills and then polish them for later.
Yeah. It's like a lot of ways of so many years where you could have been building up your confidence, understanding your own potential, and then by the time you come out from school, let's say when you're 21, you already know what you want to do. You already have the kind of confidence because I know that this is based on my
Yeah.
hard work. It's not just luck. So and then I know that I can then just proceed in pursuing all these things that I want to do or like I believe in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no one is really or not the education that I've experienced.
Exactly.
That's really,
We only have
that's
our
really
grades.
crucial.
Have given you
That's
We
really
don't have the grades.
crucial. Even in parenting, for example,
Mm.
if you have a kids who not academically, I mean, she or he don't actually score well in exam because actually the forte, the interest in something like hands-on, and that actually will actually bring you to, now we have a lot of awareness about ADHD,
Mm.
kinesthetic autism thingy, but I think back years then maybe parents don't know, so they cannot actually accept that, oh, my kids are a little bit slow in learning. But also learning is very vast, it's a very wide area. um, I, similar with self, I think learning is just learn, do things, and then the scoring is based on your effort, whether it's you really have put your effort enough or not. But
Mm.
later on, I figure out that, yeah, I actually need little effort on something that need me to read and understand compared to something to count. So that made a difference uh, for me to choose my subject during my
Mm.
university, because I know I cannot do physics. I was like, no, I cannot do physics. you know?
Yeah.
And my sister and brother will be talking about physics like, then I was like, okay, never mind, I'll talk about biology. But that's good because at that time, I'm at that point that I'm acknowledging myself, which part is I'm good at and which part which I cannot do, and I'm tolerating myself. But imagine for parents who actually the kids will tell them, sorry mother, I don't want to further study, but I want to go to work because I love sewing or
Mm.
because I love baking. It's not a failure at all. She can be a very good baker or chef. So yeah.
Yeah, 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 correct. So I think this could be bigger than just school, isn't it? It is parenting as well. So as what Azima was saying, because now that you're talking about it, I just realized that I don't know whether you guys observe the same thing in nursery education, like early childhood education. The ones that I know of, the school would always have to communicate with the parents quite closely. Like every day your
Mm.
child did this in school, or like at least every week your child did this in school, or like this is what you can also do in at home. So let's say they have learned how to do potty in school, potty training. So then at home you should also do the consistent stuff. So then the parents would need to know from the teacher that, oh, I train your child this way, or the teacher need to know that the parents train the child that way in school. So then you can keep things very consistent back and forth from within the school and also at home. But then somehow once you go into year one, things change. The parents just drop you off in school and then that's it. And then you only do like
Mm.
twice a year where you go and get your results. Then I want to see, okay, how many A's you get. And it's such a vast difference compared to when I was 6 years old and then I was in kindergarten. My parents come nearly like, every month because we have this big event in school. Every month has a theme, whatnot, for example. But then kalau kat sekolah tak ada.
Oh, yeah,
It's such a big gap. Yeah. So
that is true.
could that be one of the gaps that causes us not to, or to miss out on all these things? And building on that as well, another thing I thought was something I thought of was how schools always grade students. So
Mhm.
like what you were saying, uh,
You're freezing, Juin.
the teacher would always give feedback, but a lot of times it's always teacher. So yeah, am I back?
Yep.
Yeah, kat
Yes.
kampung, my Wi-Fi might not be like very strong. So sorry, I was saying that it's always very teacher driven in terms of the feedback that you give. But actually, you can give feedback to yourself. But that's not really encouraged in school. You don't give peer feedback, and you don't really give
Mhm.
yourself feedback. You don't reflect, like reflective thinking, I guess. Like think about, okay, so based on your quiz results today, so where do you think you did wrong, or where do you think you did right? What was your strength? What have you observed? The kind of stuff. So then, what can you do better next?
Yeah,
Yeah,
reflective
that has
thinking.
never.
That's nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but that,
bit is missing. And even if they want to implement it, then they'll implement a framework, but people would use that framework, like that template. Okay, say for example, ABCD would take you through reflection in with prompt questions, but for some reason there's still something missing, because kids and questions, they always want to get the answers right rather than actually looking at the question and secara tidak langsung reflecting. But it doesn't happen. It's like answering questions for the exam. I've seen a lot of reflection reports that come back, and it's weird lah. The answers is very fact based rather than any thought has been given there.
Yeah, perhaps. We had a previous conversation as well. My mom and my friend, who are both teachers, and they keep emphasizing that our education system currently is very exam centric. So then it's very hard to incorporate all this other stuff, because your main goal is, I just need to score well in the exam,
Yeah.
because without the score I cannot go to university, or even as a
Yeah.
university, if I don't have the score, I cannot ask for jobs, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah,
that is
and you see
always
people prioritizing based on that. And you cannot run from it.
yeah, but it's so different when you were young. I can play, I can draw, I can play in the sandbox, I can make myself dirty, but then ultimately,
As you were
Yeah.
saying that, I terfikir the other day, because like kids
Mm.
go to school from, like, is it 8 hours? Do we go to school for 8 hours or 6 hours?
about at least 6, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
we go to school for 6 hours, and then some of us have additional either
Class.
agama school or additional classes. So that makes
Mm.
it almost 8 to 12. And then we
Mm.
have homework on top of that. I wonder if being a kid is more stressful than being an adult.
God.
It kind of dawned on me, like, oh my God, we're trying to like get kids to have all the skills that the play part is not there, and then as we go become adults, we don't allow ourselves to play either sometimes.
Yeah. Sayang, that's why. So before this conversation, I was just looking at have you heard of Mr. Rogers?
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood?
Mhm.
So I was just watching one of his I think it was like a half an hour show, kan? And it is interesting how he I feel like that's my dream education, if there is possible such thing, because he doesn't talk about specific subject, he talks about events or like things that happen, and then he incorporate things like similar to what we did in FCC last time. So we teach kids like how things are done. You go and talk to experts, or like if you want to learn about the swamp area ecosystem, whatnot, then you hop on a boat, and then you go on and see this swamp area and understand how things are there. So he does all this, how things is done, or like how is sneakers made, and then he will go and like film this and then explain, and then he would also talk to people. But on top of that, he also teach about how to regulate emotions. And one clip I was watching just now was about this like 7-year-old boy that came to his neighborhood, and he was explaining and sharing, asking the boys to share why is he in a wheelchair. So how does that make you feel? So if you're sad, then how do you counter that? Like how do you manage that? So then you share all this kind of stuff, which I feel like even as adult I can relate. But school doesn't really have such programs, or not that I know of. So, and I think they should, or perhaps if school cannot handle that, then there should be another informal TV program, perhaps like a national program that should cater to this kind of stuff. But that's just my thought, lah. Yeah. So all these things that we are missing out. Who's gonna teach us how to
react.
how to embrace our sadness, and that it's okay to be sad, and after that you overcome it. Yeah, this kind of stuff. Yeah. Any other thoughts you guys have?
Yeah, that's bring me to my wish list, which is EQ, where I shared that I actually know EQ during mostly about EQ during my working days, and I have this book with me. So I bought this. I bought this in 2018. I
Wow.
bought this in 2018. So when I first bought this book, I was kind of like, first, what is empathy? What is the difference of empathy and sympathy? And I
Mm.
bought this book, and my colleague was like, so he kind of like made fun of me. Oh, now you want to learn about EQ, you know? Maybe during that time, this is about 12 years ago, it's something new maybe, but it's good that actually from this book, it said that according to this writer, Daniel Goleman, an American psychologist,
Mm.
so there are five key elements to this EQ, which is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill. And if we look at these five things, these are the things that actually we are listing down. I mean, kebetulan.
What was it again?
Self-awareness, the five key elements to emotional intelligence is self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills.
Mm.
Mm.
Interesting,
That's
very
a that's
interesting.
that's a good point you brought up as well, because I did write civic responsibility and services to others as well.
Mm.
You know, so as simple as you pergi shopping, you ambil
Okay.
grocery kat dalam trolley, lepas you letak kat parking lot. So is it a civic responsibility to actually push it back, push your cart back, you know, or shouldn't you, you know, that kind of stuff? Perhaps is under social skills and empathy as well, lah. But yeah,
Yeah.
who, I,
Then that's why we are finding a lot of unwanted stuff at the counter. They put it back at the shelf.
Exactly.
yeah.
I was like, I
I
feel so
wonder if
bad.
it's psychology.
Yeah, I
Because
don't know. I feel like perhaps in school we are not questioned enough. Yeah, every time we're questioned is only based on what we need to answer in exams. Perhaps there should be more questions. Oh, why are you thinking that way? Or like, oh, okay, so if this is how you're feeling, what do you think you can do about it? You know, like teachers. I don't see a lot of teachers asking us that, or not that I know of. Even personally, when I was a teacher, I think I missed out on all this knowledge, so I didn't question my students a lot then as well. But I thought perhaps all these things would actually help. That leads to things like now. Uh, because of EQ, because of understanding and empathizing that if you go out, you're gonna spread COVID all over the place.
mm.
Then you would stay quietly and quarantine at home. My
Yeah.
brother-in-law just went back to Japan, and apparently there is no such rule to like ping tag and like lock you down for quarantine when you go back to Japan. So you are supposed to pandai-pandai from the airport rent a specific set of taxi services that only drives people who are from the airport, I think. And then you would have to already rent your own Airbnb, hostel, whatever it is, hotel, and then quarantine yourself there. No one
Whoa,
asks
and
you
it's
to
all
do that.
self.
It's all self. No one asks you to do that. It has to be all paid by on your own. Of course, as any other citizen, you can choose to go and run around lah if you want to. But it is your civic duty, Jay. It's your civic duty to quarantine yourself, knowing that you came from another country that also has this pandemic. And then the only way they can detect that you have been going around spreading this viruses to people is if it has been reported and like you somehow traced back to you, then you would get a fine. Yeah, but
My
technically it's
goodness.
all based on like trust lah, trust on
I'm
the
really
citizens. But
curious, like the ingredient to, how Japanese nurture the civic mindedness, like you
yeah,
understand there are rules and societal pressure, but you cannot really see or visualize what happens in the school that allow you to have those, mindsets because it's so
yeah,
ingrained in them. Of course, there's pros and cons to this kind of thing because I feel like one of the biggest thing with them is societal pressures because
mm,
they're always about the society, but then when it comes to this kind of thing you're always thinking about others even in times of pandemic. I feel like it's very selfless and we need a percentage of that lah.
Yeah. Perhaps it's
Yeah.
just not
Oh, okay.
explained.
So this particular topic kan,
Mm.
if the Maslow hierarchy, you can see that you would start to do for others only at the higher level. Once you feel secure, you feel safe, you feel a sense of belonging. So I feel like it's almost unnatural for people to be selfless. That us requesting sense of community. Sorry,
Mhm.
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sense of community, you were saying. South. Can I hear you now?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. You were saying about a sense of community.
Yeah, so I feel like, complaining about sense of community or people doing things without thinking about other people, it's a common request, but I wonder if it's natural, because psychologically, only based on that hierarchy, needs hierarchy, that you only go to do that once you feel safe, when you're kind of like you're not in any kind of harm. Yeah, it's almost like the majority of people would not have a sense of community until it's safe for them, like they are provided for, only then they will provide for others.
Mm.
So I wonder if it can be taught. And another one is sense of drive. Like how people don't have drive, it's semua yang buat ambil dapat, this whole attitude of ambil dapat, sambil lewa. I don't understand it, and I have no clue how that can be nurtured. Yeah, I feel like if that could be nurtured, then no matter what you do in life, if you give it 100%, you are set lah. Like you should be okay, inshallah. But this whole ambil dapat thing is annoying, especially when it comes to customer service. Like, take pride in what you do and do your best, You don't have to I'm just a waitress, so I'm just gonna, not give you my 100% because you don't care either. But I do care. And I feel like if I was a waitress, I'd be giving it my all as well, because, yeah.
Maybe their lack of responsibility. They don't take it serious because they think not important. There's no self acknowledgement that actually, even though it's something that is simple or little thing that make a big difference. So they're not being thought of that, or not being, they don't realize that, which actually bring to other things as well, something like environmental awareness, pollution. Even now the our mask, our face mask is everywhere because people just throw it. I mean, yeah, you don't have those extra thing that I need to dispose this properly, because it's
Yeah.
actually not even give a pollution to our environment, but also, hey, this is a contaminated face mask. You wore that. You need to dispose that properly. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's priority, isn't it? Like, if there's so much on your plate, thinking about yourself contaminating, your town wouldn't be your first priority, because like, oh, my child is crying, or, I can't find food, or, I'm sad because heartbroken. So the mask doesn't take precedence in your list of things to do.
Yeah, but then it's back to reflective thinking, isn't it? Even though you're prioritizing your kids, like perhaps littering is not the biggest of your concern, but then knowing that it's going to come around to you, when people in your neighborhood gets infected, and then somehow it's going to come back to you, wouldn't that spur something inside of you? Say, okay, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do this. Yes, that's right. I understand when you were talking about the Maslow theory of hierarchy, when you said that people need to feel safe first before they do all those things, because naturally it's survival instincts, isn't it? You would always want to protect yourself and be selfish first before I need to care about others. But because of the concept of all these consequences that comes around, then you need to consider all this kind of stuff. But how can all this be nurtured?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is it only through experience?
When you were talking about the civic mindedness, I think I was thinking about I think this is my experience. When I was in primary school, even when I was teaching in my school, kids in school, after they finish recess time, they're supposed to return their cutleries and their like plates or that into a specific location, right?
Basin.
Could that actually? Yeah, could that? Oh, sorry.
Into huge basins.
Yes, correct. So I'm wondering, could that actually be part of the training where the idea is to tell you that, oh, you're supposed to return stuff. So as simple as plates to a basin, like trolley to the trolley cart area. But it doesn't relate. It doesn't relate to us that we need to do
It doesn't
that.
connect that
Why?
way.
Yeah, but why? It's so fascinating.
Because you
how
don't see, maybe. You don't see who's handling those things in the basin, or if it was
Perhaps.
left on the table.
Yeah, perhaps you see the consequences, or perhaps this is something that the guru besar, in school during assembly should tell you. Oh, okay, everyone, good job this week. Everyone return the pots and plates and bowls and whatnot, because this is what happened after that. Perhaps it's exposing people to all those things. Perhaps exposure to stuff is not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
I think that's
exciting.
I think it's going to be like a longer conversation to even drill down to how we can manage this or put this into school, or how things are even supposed to be nurtured. It's such a wicked problem. Who is even responsible? Is it parents? Is it schools? Or perhaps nationally, private institutions should do this. So should we open another program like Sesame Street, teaching people to push trolley back?
That's first before everything else.
Good. Yeah, but it's interesting because I'm sure that things like TV programs, since we learn a lot about things like Mean Girls, who's a popular girl, then you know not to touch this person, or like you know that you don't belong to a popular group because of this kind of stuff. So I'm sure mass media played a lot of role in this as well. So how can everything come together?
Yeah. Which
I'd
actually
rather
this is
it be experiential.
experiential. This actually reminds me to this one story that I heard from one of Cikgu Helmi's sharing about his experience in Korea. So he was saying that in Korea, this secondary school student, they're using handphone mobile in their classroom. So this handphone mobile, there will be one basket at the middle of the table. So they will put their handset into that basket when they don't need it. So when there's time they need to use it, then they will pick it up. So that thing, imagine we are doing that in Malaysia. So there's a lot we are prone to
habis hilang pun.
Yes, so they are so like responsible and they know that okay, which one who's they can put that in the basket with a safe feeling and continue learning. But how do they nurture that to that extent? In the secondary school, they can actually do that. So that's very interesting also. I cannot when I first hearing that story during his sharing, I was like I cannot imagine if we do this in Malaysia. For now, maybe in the future, maybe after considering those things that we are lacking, now we
I think
can do
our
that.
approach to those kind of stories may make a difference as well, because exactly like you said, Azima, when you heard the story, you cannot imagine it being applied or applicable to our context. And I think a lot of this, pandang ke arah left and right, you always come back idolizing those countries and thinking, they have it easy because they have this. There's no way we could do it. I think it might, I've not gone down to analyze how these things are communicated, but it might be that, because it's always communicated so with so much regality and elitism that you feel so far away from that particular concept that you don't feel you want to even apply any parts of it. You just feel it's impossible and then you chuck it out. I feel like
Interesting.
that might be the case. Every time you hear a good story, you're like, oh yeah, but that's them. There's no way we could do it. You
Exactly,
hear that a
exactly.
lot. Like, diorang boleh lah, diorang boleh lah.
We
Okay.
need to flip the thinking. We need to flip the thinking. Okay, we are close to that. We just need to do this so we can do that. So I think that what we need to reflective thinking and flipping the thinking
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's also just
Both sides
observing.
of
Sorry, Saf?
like showing both sides of the coin would be useful as well. Like,
Mhm.
like there are pros and cons to everything that's done, or there's good and bad in how they do things as well. Then it humanizes the whole experience, and you feel like you can relate. Like, oh, they do good in this. This is where they have challenges, and then we have the same. So then you don't feel like you're always reaching out to the impossible.
Sure.
Yeah. Perhaps it's also just understanding historically how they even do this. Perhaps it's not just looking at them, it's actually looking back to ourselves, understanding our culture, and actually, oh, if we change this part of the culture and incorporate this into the system in the school, for example, in the first 2 years, you can do this, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure, actually, our culture, like our national culture, like for example, Malay culture, a lot of like kesopanan, kesusilaan, this kind of stuff is emphasized a lot when you're in your family. But when it comes to school, when it comes to society, like what happened to that? Yeah, so perhaps it's rejigging um, our our formal education to incorporate that, just to give it a little bit more emphasis, or perhaps there's something that needs to supplement formal education to make you reflect on, okay, actually when you learn this in school, what do you think it actually meant, or like what is it useful for, because in school we always question, I'm learning integration and differentiation, when am I going to use this? I read a maths questions, oh my god, who wants to buy 500 watermelon at one time,
Yeah. Perhaps we should
that kind of.
just slow down as well. I think
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole pace, and like right now, even discussing this, I am having second thoughts about incorporating all of this. Maybe we're not supposed to learn it. It will come in this, but it's really about allowing it to happen and then having space to actually learn from it. But when we were growing up and throughout this years as adults as well, you don't have space to reflect on what just happened because you're busy chasing on to the next thing. So then, when you were younger, or you're adult, or you're about to die, you're always just in a race, and you don't have time to just sit back and like, oh, this was what happened. This was how I could have done it, differently. You should be able to retrospect, but you don't have time to do that. And I think like us trying to fit in everything at the young age, maybe that's not the right thing to do. Maybe it's to prioritize and just minimize what they should learn from 4 to 5 or like 5 to 8. Then you would actually have time to learn, because I think out of all of these things, it's really looking at, do they really learn? Because learning is about acquiring, then applying it. It's not just knowing. So macam, yeah.
I remember reading somewhere on internet about education in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. There's no exam until they are about 8 years old or 10 years old, because the early education is to focus on the attitude development and how they react, how they perform, how do they live a good life. Which I think quite interesting.
Yeah. Perhaps it's that. Perhaps we need to look at, again. It's back to having our formal education being so exam centric that all these things are missed out, right? But again, I think this is a wicked problem. We don't know who can solve this. Perhaps we ourselves can come up with something as well. Perhaps it's like what I was saying, like, is it supplementing? Maybe we shouldn't teach this in school. Just leave school as what it is, but then we supplement it with something else. Yeah. So I think that
I
that can
also
be.
actually have something taboo in the list, which is I think still taboo for now, sex education.
I
Yeah.
saw. Yes.
So it being taught in secondary school, but I think a lot of I think masalah. I think the problem with us, maybe we don't actually introduce that in a way that we need to educate, for example, kids, what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. For example, you need to take care of yourself. This parts of the body, other people cannot touch it. Something like that, which is we should actually introduce um, in the early days of schooling, instead of you're waiting until secondary school, then you're learning about, but that's very factual, that's very biological. You're learning about kitaran height, everything in the biology, you know. But the other side, the side that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't have sex without marriage, for example. You shouldn't let other people to touch a certain part of your
Mhm.
body. This is wrong. How you wear. So I think we are still lacking of that.
Mm.
And I actually just read also on a website. I think I read it on the Twitter last week from education. I tak ingat dia punya nama
Yeah.
group. They are talking about this. There's one teacher talking about whether we should actually upgrade and thought our sex education, upgrade our sex education, because it's a taboo. Most of people think it will actually bring the harm, more harm than good, but certain people think we need to have that to avoid the harm. So yeah.
Mm. They can always do like a pilot, right? You just coach do a pilot program for this to have specified trained teachers perhaps to show you how it can be taught, and then see what comes out from that kind of sessions, and then they can introduce it slowly into formal education if they want to. And I feel like it's not just about sex education as well. Any taboo topics should be introduced in school, but it's never really been discussed. Perhaps you can hear it in debate competition, whatnot, or even public speaking perhaps, but not in school where all students can participate in. For example, things like racism, politics, all those things. It's never really been formally introduced in school, I feel. So how would you know that this is how you can read the politician's manifesto and select a preferred elected person for your representative for your town, right? No one really taught us about how to do that. And then you only hear say, and then again this builds on things like your what's that called, your tech bubble, and then depending on what news you read, and then these are the other news that they feed you, then you would always be in that kind of situation. So again, perhaps it's not topics, perhaps it's also skills on how you think about all those things. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
going to be quite
I think
interesting what we want to cover.
it's a good
Yes, stuff.
it's a good ending and a segue to another topic where education is built on um the purpose of education is towards economy, and I feel like that is where it gets all wrong. It's about money making, and everything about towards money is where things gets wrong because you don't have time, you can't do this, you can't do that because it's about the money. And yeah, I feel like that's definitely another topic, and why we're not discussing more day-to-day topics with our students.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the
Yeah.
racism also bring to one of my wish lists also the multiracial and cultural history thing,
Yes,
because
yes.
we
I
are
saw you put
living in
that.
a multiracial country, and something we need to know each other's history and culture, and the way history being offered in school is so boring and factual. You need to remember the years. I mean, nobody actually telling you the story in a fun
Yeah.
way. I
Yeah.
think I learned history very interestingly from drama or from from film rather than reading. And I think I'm very lucky that one of my history teacher loved to tell us stories, that I love learning histories. But at that time, come to the point that why sejarah Melayu or sejarah dunia, tamadun Rom, everything is so interesting compared to sejarah pembentukan Malaysia. Because sejarah pembentukan Malaysia, you need to remember all the years with all the things that happened. Everyone's telling you that in a very fun way.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also,
correct.
it's important to know every race, setiap bangsa with their culture. So, for example, one of my friend, I don't remember, tell me the story that she's giving kain as hadiah, but then they are sad because for in their culture, receiving kain is because of kematian. So those kind of thing. That yeah, we need to know each other. History and background and culture so we can actually respect everyone and be part of our authenticity and also our patriotism. I think we are lacking of patriotism. When I look at current generation, I was like, the rate of patriotism is like for me is like declining over the generation because they don't understand, they don't value the history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. True. Oh, wow. Suddenly we realized that, yeah, like cannot pinpoint where what went wrong, but perhaps it's like what Saf said, because it's all building towards economy, is building towards, yeah, perhaps education's goal is all wrong. I don't know. Maybe the next conversation we should have is if we can reimagine education,
Yeah.
change whatever parts you want, what would you do? Then maybe
Yeah.
we can have like half an hour conversation on that.
Yeah. If education is, school of life rather than school for
Yeah.
the nation's future.
Yeah. Yes. I've always been imagining like if I do open a school, right? And then what are the stuff I would like to teach? Yeah, perhaps that would be a conversation for another time.
Mm-hmm. That would be
Uh,
interesting.
yeah. Anyhow, I think today is like the longest conversation we had, and it has been really really interesting. And I think we haven't even covered like the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps there's a lot more stuff that we should have been taught as a kid. When we were younger. So many things we still don't know.
We still don't know.
Yeah, I know. And you don't know what you don't know either. And so there's another
Exactly.
bigger rabbit hole you have to go down. Yeah. All right. Yeah, perhaps we'll continue this conversation the next round. That's quite a heavy topic for 2nd of January 2021. Happy New Year, ladies.
Good beginning for 2021.
I know. Yeah. Who knows what change we can bring. Anyhow, I think I'll end here lah. It is quite heavy, and I think we did cover a huge base of like what are the stuff that could have been taught to us, right? But right now I think there is no specific solution, or even maybe like what Saf was saying, digging back to what actually went wrong or where were the gaps, and then see from there how we can manage. Perhaps we could have suggestions for the next round. Would we like to hold this topic for another
like
casual but so heavy conversation for another weekend?
I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, all right. Then we can try to dig deeper. Like Azima is still digging into Korea's education, how do they teach civic mindedness.
Maybe that could be homework.
Yeah. Okay, can. I'll try to see for the next invitation, then I can just list down the questions we can ask one another. Or perhaps you guys would like to share as well. Okay lah. Thank you for an intellectual conversation on a Saturday. Thank you very much for spending your time on your holidays.
I think it's a good warm up to Monday.
Where you have to like go back to work again. And why is work? Why do we go to work so heavy-heartedly?
Exactly.
When it should actually be fun,
Yeah.
All right. So that's our conversation for non-academic education as a start. Maybe I have to like quote this as part 1. Then maybe we'll come back again for part 2. Hopefully we finish in part 2. Who knows, there'll be a part 3. But that'll be for another conversation. All right. Thank you so much, ladies. I'll end the broadcast